Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey,
Raw, SmackDown, and NXT this week. Where to start off with? We're gonna do the big stables. I feel like it's what we always do. But this week on SmackDown, the Bloodline got themselves a new member, and it was none other than Jacob Fatu.
probably one of the more anticipated debuts from the Bloodline in a while.
A lot more than the Tongans.
Yeah. Um, this should be interesting because there's still more pieces to be played out. But we are starting to see the formation of the new Bloodline team. Uh, before we get to the eventual originals and the eventual Civil War that we know is coming. I do like that in the promo, uh, Solo said Roman's not returning. That again another layer to add to this storyline. Uh, but yeah, we now have four members of the New Bloodline, being Solo Sikoa, Tonga, and Tongaloa, and now Jacob Fatu, which we have found out is not going to be named Caesar Sikoa, which everybody thought was going to be because of a new trademark.
It's an interesting one. I don't know how all of these pieces are going to shake out. You're right. Solo is standing there saying to Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns ain't coming back. Paul Heyman's on the outs because his only real connection he ever had with the bloodline was Roman. Um, where, CM Punk's trying to pull Paul Heyman away from the bloodline. Um,
Is
to
he, or is Heyman trying to run for CM Punk?
Look, Heyman's odds are not great if he continues to hang around the Bloodline 2.0. I don't think anybody in the 2.0 group likes Heyman. And it's getting more and more obvious as the weeks go on, really.
Yeah, yeah. He's there to speak on their behalf, and as long as he stays in line, he'll be fine. But it's the second that he starts making it seem like he's going to Roman, that is when he will be left in a pool of his own blood,
And
which is something that we do need the reference because that actually happened to somebody on the show.
yeah, I was gonna say not quite an exaggeration. And we've seen this
Uh,
Bloodline 2.0 absolutely maul people.
yep. Um, and we're about 6 months away from supposedly quotation marks uncensored Raw,
Yeah, we'll have to see
and
what the Netflix deal does.
yeah, yeah, and apparently a shift towards edgier content, which we're already kind of seeing with the amount of blood we have seen in the last 3 weeks
Mm.
on the show, whether it was in the I Quit match or
Or Drew McIntyre beating up CM Punk.
yep,
We got what? Last week, Drew McIntyre quits. This week, CM Punk shows up on SmackDown, and Drew took issue with that.
well, he showed up in his hometown, still admitted that he's not ready declared yet. Did the stuff with the bloodline, which obviously was because of Heyman and his connection to Heyman. And as he's going to leave, he gets absolutely mauled and decimated by the Scottish Warrior, who is clearly still in the company.
Yeah, I guess he didn't quit, huh?
Yeah, it's easier to jump to the other show if you're not quote unquote associated with the brand because you quit to do that. Um, but then again, he also then earned himself a opportunity at the Money in the Bank briefcase next week in a triple threat match. That will probably have a CM Punk run in.
Yeah, I think we've seen a few of these before where WWE quittings don't really last a long amount of time. In fact, one of them involving CM Punk. Um, I still think we could have potentially have done stuff if we'd waited a few weeks and had Drew show up in maybe some partnered places, but um,
Yeah,
SummerSlam is just around the corner, and I guess they didn't want to waste a single week of build for that.
no, and you're not going to get a hotter crowd for CM Punk than Chicago.
Yeah.
So it kind of had to be Friday night because of that. If Friday night is, I don't know, Nashville, there's nothing wrong with Nashville. Just throwing out a random city that they would run a show in. Um, it might not have been as popular. He may not have been. The crowd reaction may have been more mixed, and it may not have had the impact of the crowd reaction to seeing a bloody CM Punk in his hometown.
Yeah. I think it definitely had the most impact. I just wish the timings had worked out a little bit better.
Yeah, it's fine. It again, this is one of those long-term bookings that we do still have to take a little bit more time to get to, but they're still jabbing at each other and keeping it going and keeping it interesting. Even though they haven't been in the ring, it is still interesting. You still have stuff that makes you want to see this feud.
Yeah, and I guess we skimmed over the Bloodlines official match for Money in the Bank getting booked. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens in a six-man tag as we expected. Um, so I'm sure we'll run that down when we preview the show next week. But it wasn't the only match for Money in the Bank or the only implication around that, as the stipulation, the information surrounding the World Heavyweight Championship match sort of settles in. If Priest wins, Rollins can't challenge for the title, and if Rollins wins, Priest is out of the Judgment Day.
Yeah, and I think that's where is sir? I think that is where Liv takes full control of the Judgment Day. I think she convinces Finn to turn on him and cost him the title. And because I think Finn has been in cahoots with Liv this entire time. I think that I I think that they've severely hinted towards him not wanting to play ball with Damien. He also regained the tag titles just with his buddy JD. Um, but yeah, I think it's just a case. I think it's just going to be. I think they want Seth versus Gunther at the pay per view at SummerSlam, which is fine. Little weary on the hot potato, but it is still a title with only a year's worth of uh, history, so it's fine. As long as I will only be really fine with it as long as Gunther walks out with it at SummerSlam. If Gunther doesn't walk out with that title, then we'll have a problem.
Yeah, I think you know whoever they want to be Gunther's opponent, um, that's fine. For me, though, the storyline with the Judgment Day is still got so many moving pieces. Like, if I just talk about what happened this week, we've got Liv Morgan with her title, uh, getting Dominic, distractions over Ray, that match being booked for next week, Zelina Vega wanting a shot at Liv Morgan, being caught backstage playing games with Finn Balor by Damian Priest, who does appear to be the only member who doesn't particularly like Liv Morgan's approach. I guess Dominic as well, but he's slowly warming up to it. Their continued interactions backstage. Liv getting, as you said, Finn Balor and JD a title match, and then helping them come out on top, putting gold back into the hands of the Judgment Day. You know, she's doing quite a lot of favors for the Judgment Day, or for a specific segment of the Judgment Day.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those. This was a rolling storyline throughout the night. One of those storyline types that you love.
Mm-hmm.
It's been playing out throughout the entire time since Liv won the world title, pretty much. And we know there is going to be that moment when she wakes up, when she turns around and they play that theme. And I know you know which theme I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because when she hears the Eradicator's theme, she knows she will be in trouble because she's taking she is trying to take her boys, she took her title, she's trying to take her man, quotation marks. Uh it will result in a very angry, dangerous Rhea Ripley, and I am looking forward to that. I do think I do think match one will go to Liv, and I think it'll be like really cheap. But I think I could see them being the second Hell in a Cell match. At we assume they're bringing Bad Blood back. At least there's talks about it. I will assume they will be in the cell if they do it because of bad blood between them. And I'm putting that as more faith than CM Punk holding up and going to a Hell in a Cell match against Drew McIntyre. CM Punk does hold up. That is happening as well.
Yeah, it seems as though the Judgment Day are being split down, those who are going to side with Liv Morgan and those who are not. And I think you're right. If Liv either directly or indirectly through Finn ends up costing Damien his championship, then not only is it his championship, it's his membership to the group. Now you've look at the Judgment Day and you've only got Finn who's on board, JD who's on board, Carlito who's just there, and just Dominic left to really lock in and convince to follow Liv Morgan.
Yeah, Carlito's there because he doesn't have anywhere else because he's screwed over too many people.
Yeah, look, he's so it's so hard to pick his position in this storyline. I could very easily say, Liv, Finn, and JD, and maybe Dom doesn't fall for it, and you get Rhea, Dom, and Priest. Uh, and it makes sense, and then you just got Carlito hanging around, and it's like, alright.
Alright. Carlito is the JD McDonough of this group.
Are you allowed to say that when JD is still in the group?
That's it. JD was forever just hanging around the group. He wasn't an official member. So, yeah, I can say that because that's basically where he was a year ago. He was just on the outside looking in because he was Finn's friend.
Hell, just put R-Truth onto the good guy's side. There you go. Even the numbers. Carlito on one side, R-Truth on the other. Sorted. But again, I think it's going to be this way for at least a good few months. SmackDown dominated by the Bloodline storyline, Raw dominated by the Judgment Day storyline. And up until, a couple weeks ago, the titles were kind of important to it, but not mega important to it. And now Cody's got himself a match with the Bloodline. Damien's got his title and membership of the Judgment Day involved. And it's all culminating where all these major storylines are coming to a head. Well, we are roughly halfway through the show. And I believe you selected the theme this week to celebrate our brand new tag team champions, and at least half of them with JD McDonough's theme. So listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh, and we were talking about stables for the first half of the show. Let's just keep on rolling. The Wyatt 6 this week came on out, gave Cole a VCR in a taped up, munted box, and then all of a sudden Uncle Howdy's sort of being a therapist to Bo Dallas almost.
Yeah, this was an interesting promo, and we'll say definitely the best work Bo Dallas has ever done on the mic. Well, I'd take that back. It wasn't Bo Dallas. It was Taylor Rotunda. They can dress it up as his original character all they want. That was that was 100% the real Taylor Rotunda speaking everything back to Uncle Coyote. It was emotional. I am look. I want to see where they go. They had me so scared of the supernatural with that massive entrance last week. This made me pull back. I'm more interested. I want to see where they go, but they're definitely trying to progress the whole character of basically Uncle Howdy, because that is Bo Dallas. Um, and to, um, and they're trying to tell a story, so I want to see where they go with it. But so far, A plus.
Yeah, it's definitely raw and real, for sure. And it makes you want to tune in every week and see where it's going, right? You know, just as the vignettes and the QR codes were starting to run their course and everything, now we've got a new way for the Wyatt Six to involve themselves into shows. Last week we massacre everybody, and this week we just do a haunting little segment in the ring and hand off a tape. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
violence, sometimes it's not.
yeah. And I love that one of the questions that Uncle Howdy asked was, are you really doing this to be exploitative of your brother and his death? And I loved the answer of it being that he always wanted to be his brother. That he wanted, when he came back as Uncle Howdy, he wanted to be at the top with his brother. And they were getting there, and then COVID happened. And then before Bray could recover, obviously he passed away.
Yeah, I think
And
a couple weeks ago I rewatched the Bray Wyatt documentary, and that really was a good primer at this part into the story, given how much real life circumstances they are bringing into the storyline.
yeah, yeah, and it also, another thing you have to notice is there's always something small, something little in the background of not just these segments, which were always parts of Bray's stuff. And I think they've been doing pretty well on that. But like, just at this point, Raw, SmackDown, anything WWE does, you have to watch everything, because there's going to be could be something in the background going on that could mean nothing, but it could also mean everything down the road. Whether it's like a few weeks back, just a random shot of Liv Morgan talking with Finn Balor. That at the time it didn't mean anything. Now it does.
Yeah, it
So yeah,
reminds me weirdly of Community, the TV show, and they had a bit where they slowly told a story through the background of this woman getting pregnant and one of the characters helping give birth to the child, and then it was like a major storyline later on, but it built in the background. And when you've only got 3 hours of Raw and 2 hours of SmackDown, and I'm not saying make the shows longer, but you're maximizing every minute you have. You know, you can tell a story in the foreground and you can tell another story in the background.
yeah, yeah, and the store stuff in the background it's going to be something you're going to have to watch two, three, four times just to see everything and to get all the picture. And that's what's making WWE hit on all cylinders the way it is. You can't take a segment off because you might miss something important.
No toilet breaks. And speaking of the Wyatt Six, they decimated people last week, and Chad Gable has recovered seemingly physically, but not so mentally, but recovered enough to earn himself a Money in the Bank ladder match spot.
Yeah, um, I would be very interested because honestly, I would not be against Chad Gable winning that. The only thing is that I'm afraid he'll use it on the Intercontinental Championship. And I feel that the Money in the Bank is lessened if it's used on the mid card title. We've seen the effect that Austin Theory had on the briefcase.
Yeah.
But if it was just that to get Chad Gable up to the top of the card, I'd be fine with that. As long as it's a world title he's cashing in on. Um, Heck, I'd be even fine with him going down the NXT and claiming the NXT Championship. It'd be less fine, but it would be more fine than being the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, it does. It does seem a lot like if Chad does win, it will be the Intercontinental Championship. And I think it will be played in a way that he's just so obsessed with it that he doesn't really take notice or care about the World Championship opportunity. He's just so obsessed with that one specific championship because that was the opportunity he couldn't seize. Um, but I don't know. The field's pretty good at the moment for the Money in the Bank match. We'll talk about them a lot more next week when we run down the card and our predictions for it. But don't count out Chad.
Yeah, yeah, and we also had a continuation of his segment with him trying to make up with Otis and the Alpha Academy, and basically getting told off by Otis. While Maxine said, "I'll talk to him. I'll see if I can get him over." Um, and then he runs into the Creed brothers when he says the words, "I need some help."
Yeah, I think we're definitely progressing the story in that direction. The Creed brothers will help him achieve goals that the Alpha Academy could not, for sure. And maybe that goal is winning Money in the Bank. Maybe that goal is winning the Intercontinental Championship. Who knows? Because if we look at the Intercontinental Championship, there was multiple people vying for it. We thought maybe we'd get a fatal four-way. Maybe Sheamus would be involved. Maybe Ludwig Kaiser would be involved. And as far as we can tell at the moment, it will be Sami Zayn. It will be Braun Breaker. And that's what we're going to be getting at Money in the Bank.
Yeah. And I will say this. I think that will be a phenomenal match. I want to talk about the spot where Ludwig Kaiser was running around to attack somebody and met with a spear from running the other direction. More as Braun Breaker continues to show just how athletic he is. And also, I want to give Ludwig props. He has been forced on his own, basically, and he's killing it.
Oh.
He is killing it. And it's just a case of right now he's running into a stronger heel, but he's still progressing himself and getting himself out of Gunther's shadow.
I think that's the important part for him, given how long he was tied into Imperium. Obviously, Vinci came and went a little bit, but Kaiser has pretty much been by Gunther's side for quite a while. And if he is breaking out, if he is doing this thing on his own, he's doing pretty well at establishing himself. We got about a minute left. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up this week?
I think I actually want to talk about the New Day for a brief second.
All right, New Day dealing with Karrion Kross, getting manipulated a little bit.
Yeah, I know you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but I think they're going with it. I think this is the element for retiring the New Day for a while. I could see that because I am noticing more and more of Xavier Woods seemingly being more frustrated with Kofi as the weeks go on. When they're challenged, he wants to step up, but Kingston takes the match. And I could see it driving Xavier Woods crazy, especially since of the three members, he's the only one to never hold a single title.
Yeah, I'm going to counter you. Method to bring Big E back.
It's possible, but I honestly, I don't expect to ever see Big E in the ring again as a wrestler. He could come back as a manager or a commentator. He'd do both. He'd do great in both roles. I don't see him as being a wrestler again, and I want to see Xavier Woods get shot up the card. so that he can have some of those singles uh, accolades that I think he deserves, like an Intercontinental title reign, like a United States title reign. I'm not going far enough to say a WWE Championship reign. Um, but if it happens, I'd be all for it, because that would make all three members a world champion, which would make them a pretty unique with the Shield. But I want to see him get up the card, and I think in order for that to happen, he has to break away from the New Day and change his character a bit.
You heard it here first from Josh. The New Day are done. They're over. There's nothing left of them. But that's all we've got time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Baby.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling RND up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will see you next week with our Money in the Bank preview show.